For some reason, the Pokemon Company just loves shiny locking stuff. Maybe it's because we want to keep the rareness and elusiveness of some of these types of Pokemon, but plenty of mythical Pokemon have been behind the shiny bars since their release, with many shiny hunters feeling a bit frustrated that their dreams to catch them are just not something that was even possible. Until now. Thanks to Pokemon Home, it's now possible to get a couple of those Pokemon's shiny forms that prior to this had been impossible to obtain without hacking. For Pokemon like Meloetta, Enamorus, and Keldeo, this is what I believe to be the very first time they have ever been available for trainers to obtain in their shiny forms. In today's video, I wanted to have a discussion not only about Pokemon Home's new way of obtaining these forms of the Pokemon, but also just the future of shiny mythicals and legendaries as a whole. What keeps that shiny lock so heavily guarded and secure after all this time? But before we go ahead and dive in, if you are a shiny hunter and are excited for all these new shiny mythicals and legendaries to obtain from Pokemon Home, let me know by hitting that subscribe button down below to subscribe to the channel, but also let me know down in the comments which shiny are you completing the decks and working towards obtaining. I'm currently working on replaying Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl to complete that Pokedex to get shiny Manaphy, and woof, playing that game again after all this time is a journey. Before we can talk about the future of shiny mythicals and legendaries, let's talk about the past. Let's talk about where exactly did this shiny lock come from and what might be the reason for Pokemon doing it. Now, there could be a lot of different reasons why the Pokemon Company might want to keep shiny locking all of these mythicals and legendaries, but I think the predominating reasons for them doing this would be the following. Many believe that it might have something to do with the consistency of the cutscenes of legendary and mythical Pokemon appearing in the games, wanting everything to appear consistent and the same for everyone instead of some people getting a shiny in a cutscene when others just get a normal one. Another reason that I can see this one being a lot more truthful is that I think that the Pokemon Company might be doing this just so that when there are events releasing these shiny Pokemon or drops for them, that it drums up a lot more hype and excitement around them, that this is one of the only opportunities, if not the only opportunity, to get the shiny form of whatever Pokemon that they're releasing. We also have to keep in mind that these Pokemon are supposed to be rare, so this might be the way of the Pokemon Company kind of showing and enforcing that these Pokemon getting their shiny form would not be easy at all to get, if not feeling sort of impossible. I mean, it is no secret at this point that this has been a struggle for a lot of Pokemon fans, especially shiny hunters, over the last couple of generations. Many fans out there believe that all of these Pokemon should be open and available to get in their shiny forms in the game that you can obtain them in. For casual players who are not really spending a lot of time shiny hunting or possibly not even looking for them at all, it just might be a nice little fun surprise to run into them every now and then just because it's possible. And for shiny hunters, of course, who enjoy the thrill of finding these shiny legendaries and mythicals, just having the player's choice and freedom to be able to find these Pokemon if they choose to take the time to do so. I mean, for some shiny hunters out there, this is the entire reason that they play Pokemon. Everyone has their reasons for why they enjoy the game, and for some, it genuinely is the ability to find shinies. So for these types of Pokemon fans and players, I can definitely understand why the idea and concept of shiny locking would definitely hinder your experience. I can absolutely see both sides of the argument in that I do believe that legendaries and mythicals should be still considered rare and elusive and not as easy to obtain as regular Pokemon, but on the other side of the coin, I definitely believe that they can loosen the reins just a little bit and make them just a little bit more available than they are. It just currently feels like it is so sporadic of where you can obtain these shiny Pokemon, and you never know if you actually can, so you constantly have to look up whether or not this Pokemon is shiny locked. Can I actually find this Pokemon? Should I spend the time to find this Pokemon? This becomes extremely relevant when you spend hours trying to soft reset for a legendary that you really want and have been looking forward to, but because you haven't found it in hours, you look up on the internet, is it possible to find a shiny of this Pokemon? And then you find out it's shiny locked. I mean, all my wasted time, I could have been buying groceries, I could have been reading a book, I could have been doing literally anything else, but instead I was over here shiny hunting a Pokemon that I completely forgot is shiny locked. I especially feel like the time period where it was the hardest to obtain shiny mythical Pokemon really started from Generation 5 onwards. I feel like Generation 5 really was the starting point, and I'm not just saying that because I'm salty about not being able to get a shiny Victini, even though I absolutely am. In terms of of modern Pokemon games, there actually is one game that comes to mind that does do a fairly good job of loosening the reins on where these shiny Pokemon can be obtained and if you're able to find them or not, and I can't tell if this was intentional. I mean, with the way that this game was actually made, I really have no idea if they meant to do this or not, or if this was a complete accident and they just forgot to shiny lock. I really don't know. If you haven't guessed, I'm talking about Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. This game actually lets you shiny hunt most of the mythical and legendary Pokemon, and I don't believe that there's really any limitations in terms of them. You're able to shiny hunt Darkrai, Arceus, Shaman. It's actually kind of funny how we've come full circle for a game that I was talking trash about literally a couple minutes ago at the beginning of this video has now become the game that I'm praising for doing exactly what I'm talking about and being a bit more available. I mean, just speaking for me personally, I know I spent hours soft resetting to find that shiny Shaman. I spent forever doing that, and was it worth it? Yes, absolutely, of freaking course it was. I wouldn't trade that time for the world. My tiny little blue cute flowery hedgehog is now one of my most treasured Pokemon. This game, funnily enough, does exactly what I have been talking about in giving players the choice to, if they would like to shiny hunt, if they would like to spend the time to do so, then they should give the players the freedom to be able to do it. This is heavily unlike Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which has a massive list of legendary and mythical Pokemon that are completely and utterly unable to be shiny hunted. They are all shiny locked, almost every single one of them. You just cannot find shinies of them, and it is so disappointing. Like, I don't know if they're just saving this massive list of Generation 9 Pokemon that can't be shiny hunted for a rainy day, or if they're gonna have a special event for some of them later on down the road, but like, girl, like, this is a huge list of Pokemon that are just completely shiny locked and unattainable. Like, I cannot believe that this list has this many Pokemon. Like, what were we thinking? Like, if I want to eat poisonous mochi and start dancing uncontrollably with my shiny Pecharunt, I absolutely should be able to, and it should be my choice. All this, of course, leading up to where we currently are with shiny mythicals and legendaries, with most of them now being released through Pokemon Home. For those who are not familiar, Pokemon Home is just an app of Pokemon storage, where you can essentially store Pokemon from various game titles on the Switch and transfer them throughout other games. And it actually has its very own Pokédex system, where it registers the Pokédex of each game that you are able to transfer Pokemon from, and this is actually how you obtain some of these shiny mythicals and legendaries. Is it a heavy task of asking someone to transfer the entire Pokédex of a region from a game into Pokemon Home and then just transfer them back? Yeah, it's a little much, especially for those of us who may have not completed the Pokédex for certain games, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and some of us now have to go back and play said games in order to complete these Pokédexes to get these shiny Pokemon, but you know what? I'm doing it. This actually isn't the first time that Pokemon Home has released a shiny mythical Pokemon. There was a while back in 2020 where they released a random shiny Zeraora for what I think was literally less than a month. You only had a couple of days to receive it, so if you didn't know that it was happening, or if you just didn't have a way to download Pokemon Home, then I guess you just missed out on that one. It's me. I'm the person who missed out on that one. But that was 2020. That year was horrible. Okay, we're not talking about 2020. We're talking about the now. We're talking about the here and now. And these are the Pokemon that are currently available in Pokemon Home for completing their respective dexes. You get shiny Meloetta for completing the Paldea, Kitakami, and Blueberry Academy Pokedexes in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. In Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl for completing the Pokedex, you get shiny Manaphy. You get shiny Enamorus for completing the Pokedex in Pokemon Legends Arceus. You get shiny Keldeo from completing the Galar, Isle of Armor, and Crown Tundra Pokedexes in Pokemon Sword and Shield. And finally, you get shiny Meltan for completing the Kanto Pokedex in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu or Eevee. These are all of the current shiny Pokemon that I believe are available, but of course, these have been coming out pretty frequently recently, so I would not be surprised at all if they release any more coming soon. So at the time of me making this video, these are the only ones that are available. I don't believe there's any time limit for them. I believe they're still available and will be. But girl, as a fan of shiny hunting in the Pokemon series, I've learned to trust nothing. So try to get these as fast as you're able to, okay? I definitely don't want any of y'all missing out on this amazing opportunity to get some Pokemon that have not been available to us until now. I'm not sure why Pokemon has decided that now is the time that we're finally releasing some of these Pokemon in their shiny forms, especially through something like Pokemon Home, but hey, I am absolutely not complaining. I really hope hope that the positive reception of this new way of obtaining these shiny Pokemon through Pokemon Home is a good sign for the future of obtaining these Pokemon, and also possibly moving past shiny locking as much as we have. Of course, this may just be me being slightly optimistic. I know shiny locking will probably always exist within the Pokemon company. It's never going to stop completely, but I do think that Pokemon Home has completely opened up just a little bit to what we now think is possible in terms of obtaining some of these Pokemon that had never been possible before. I can only hope that they continue this trend for later entries into the series, such as Pokemon Legends ZA or in Generation 10 whenever that releases, that maybe there will be a new shiny mythical or legendary Pokemon that gets released through Pokemon Home, or maybe just in those games itself and making them a little more easy to obtain, and we move towards that in the future, making a little bit of progress. But no matter what the future holds, I and many others will always be an avid shiny hunter, and I will continue to look forward to whatever shiny Pokemon I can try to obtain in the future games. With that, that's the end of today's video. Thank y'all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed just talking about the way that Pokemon Home has broken the shiny lock even just a little bit. Like I said before, definitely let me know which of these Pokemon you are currently working on trying to complete the dex to obtain, and I guess I'll just keep trying my best to finish Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. But that shiny Manaphy will be so worth it.